Happy New Year, and welcome back to the You Don't Know What You Don't Know podcast. We've been away for a bit, but we've been thinking about you, and we hope you've been missing us. Tonight, we want to do a recap, and maybe for the next 3 to 4 series, we want to do a recap and take you back and find out what happened in the stories that we covered in 2021. Because 2022, we want to be moving on and moving up. First, we want to talk to you about Black Wall Street and the fact that we missed the 100-year anniversary. Mr. Miss Pandemic made sure of that. We missed the 100-year anniversary of the massacre in Greenwood, Oklahoma. Now, mind you, it wasn't going to be a celebration, but a commemoration, but we missed it. But we want to talk to you about that. And we also want to talk to you about the Georgia election, what happened. We know who won, but what's happened since then? Because as we know, politicians make campaign promises. We want to know, did they make good on those promises? We promise this year will be interesting, enlightening, and hopefully very exciting. Sit back, relax, and let's all find out what you don't know that you don't know.
All righty, let's see. I am doing an update on Black Wall Street. That's the Tulsa massacre in 1921, 100 years ago. To bring you up to date, there is a law firm who has agreed to take this case pro bono, free of charge. And it's a huge law firm with 300 attorneys. And right now they have 30 attorneys working on Black Wall Street. The name of the firm is Schultz, Roth, and Zabel. They are located in Washington, D.C., and New York and London. And they said they have taken this case because of the harm that's been done over the last 100 years concerning this 1921 massacre. And it's still being done since the survivors have not received any kind of justice. As I said, the law firm is doing the case pro bono, free. The things that they're investigating right now are they're trying to find out who perpetrated the crimes that were done. They are assisting in identifying the insurance companies who denied the Greenwood community recovery of their claims. They're helping to identify the banks who denied the return of deposits because they didn't have identification. The IDs were destroyed in the fire. They're helping survivors with their trusts, their estate plans, and wills. They're helping justice. It's another leg of this called Justice for Greenwood, and they're helping them with fundraising. To date, this law firm has contributed 3,000 hours, which equals $2.5 million in legal services. Now, there are 8 defendants. I want to just say they have filed several lawsuits, and there are 8 defendants who also have filed separate motions to dismiss. And this was done in March of 2021. The law firm is opposing the motion. They says there's no status of limitation, according to them. They're asking that the lawsuit include the last 3 survivors. And the basis for their lawsuit is that they said the public nuisance statute will allow for remedy. And as an example of something that needs to be done and has not been done, is that the hospital that was destroyed has not been rebuilt. So they're asking for that. One of the things they're asking for. And the city of Tulsa is just lagging, stalling. They have not called a grand jury. The law firm is asking for the nuisance to be abated. They're asking for a victims' compensation fund. They're asking that survivors and descendants be compensated for the harm they have endured over the last 100 years and continue to endure. They're asking that a hospital be built in North Georgia. They're asking for educational resources. And they're asking not to have to ever pay taxes again. So far, the damages done in today's dollar is estimated to be at $22 million. One of the things that's happening there, but that has happened, is that desegregation and urban renewal has caused the people to leave that area. Urban renewal put a expressway right down the middle of that community. And right now, the business area of Greenwood consists of about 4 city blocks. Now, of that whole community, 24 blocks are owned or operated by the Chamber of Commerce. And that freeway or expressway going through the community has destroyed real estate assets that could have been passed on. Right now, they are building a structure. It's going to be called Greenwood Rising, supposed to tell the Greenwood story. The people are still waiting on reparations. And quite frankly, if I was one of those survivors, what you need to do instead of buildings and statues and freeways is give me the money that I deserve. And then I will build what I want to build. I think this is ridiculous. It's 100 years ago. So that is my update on the Greenwood Massacre.
Couple questions. I know that there was supposed to be a 100-year anniversary. Do you know if they have any plans to, I mean, of course, we missed the 100 year because of the pandemic, but do they have any plans to maybe sometime in the future have a ceremony, service, or commemoration?
I haven't heard anything about that, so I don't know. They're just, it seems to me from what I have seen, is the city is, their main interest is putting up stuff you can look at, like statues, building buildings and putting pictures in the buildings and what have you. And, you know, where to me, their main focus should be on getting these survivors their money now, not another 100 years.
I'm not understanding that. Erect a monument that doesn't feed anybody, doesn't clothe anybody, doesn't restore anybody to where they would be based on their family owning land back then. I don't. To me, that's. I don't want to say unfathomable, but it is, because it's like, what are, I don't even understand what people are thinking. Oh, well, just throw up a horse, they'll be all right.
Yeah. You know, because I'm not in that position, but if I had lost, if my family had lost everything over the last 100 years, and now is a chance to be made whole, I want to be made whole, and that's not with statues. It's not with meetings and celebrations. Give me my money so I can do what I need to do. You've taken over half the homes because they did rebuild. But when you put that freeway, that expressway right in the middle of it, you know, they lost half the homes.
I'm sure that was by design.
It was. And I'm not going to sit up here and grin and thank you for putting up a statue somewhere. I'm not grateful like that. Make me whole. Put me back where I was.
Hey, the best way to stop a movement is to put something concrete right in the middle of the movement, right in the middle of that community, and it can't be a community anymore. Because like it was separated by the railroad tracks back in the 20s, now it's separated by the freeway, so it can't be whole again.
You're right.
So yeah, that was by design.
It was by design, absolutely.
I have one more question on Greenwood, because I remember reading about Greenwood, and they actually had at least one bank. I was trying to remember if it was two banks. After the massacre, when everything was destroyed, what happened to the bank and what happened to the money in the bank? And I know you said something about people weren't allowed to get their money out of the bank because they didn't have IDs. My question is, was that the banks and I'm not asking you for an answer, it's just a rhetorical. So was that the money in the Greenwood banks, or was that the money in Tulsa banks? What money was it they were denied, and why? That would be interesting to me. And what's the interest on that money that they were denied? Because you definitely owe me my money and my interest. And 100 years of interest. Yes, sir.
That's right. I'm writing that question down. try to do a little research on that because I don't know the answer.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I said it was just something when you mentioned bank, I just thought about, because the town would have been burned down, the bank would have been burned down. I'm sure the safe or vault where the money was safe, but the people were locked up. The people of Greenwood were locked up and run away. So what happened to that?
That's
so
right.
Just a thought.
That is a good thought. Okay.
What do you call the Georgia election when they have it's not a runoff. What do you call it when they have the other election? What were they calling that? So when I talk about it, I want to say it. What is it? No, they had the election. It was too close to call, so they had to have another election.
They called it a runoff.
It was a runoff?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's what I couldn't.
And now, what's his name? Lord have mercy, I can't remember nothing. The preacher, you know who I'm talking about.
Reverend Warnock.
Yeah. So now he has to run, for the general election. And it's going to be tough. People got to get out there. Republicans doing everything to stop people from voting.
Okay, so let me start. I'll probably put that on the end of what we're saying. So one of the things we covered last year, matter of fact, it was in January, so it's a little bit over a year now, was the runoff election in Georgia. And the importance of this election was it would determine whether Republicans or Democrats had control of the House. The candidates that were running for this election were Jon Ossoff, Senator David Perdue, and Reverend Raphael Warnock, and Senator Kelly Loeffler. They were all running for seats, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. So Ossoff and Perdue against each other, and Warnock and Loeffler were against each other. This, the NBC News called this an election that could usher in a new South. And this would be building a coalition of true democracy. A Democratic win would be a fusion of a coalition of a young Jewish man and a Black preacher. If the Republicans won, it would mean no change. Georgia was a former Confederate state, and it would remain traditionally conservative, meaning the 48% of the poor and low income that need government assistance would still be left with no government assistance and no help to help improve their condition. So this was a big election for several reasons, helping the people that live in the area and also the House Senate seats. So what ended up happening was Ossoff and Reverend Warnock won. And we held a podcast with a lot of people from California, because the important thing about this election was it just didn't affect Georgia. This affected all of the United States of America. Again, like I said, who would hold the majority of the seats in the U.S. Senate. So I wanted to go back or go forward and look and see what Ossoff and Warnock had done since they won the election, because what you want to know is if campaign promises are kept, ignored, or just trampled over, if a new era or agenda ushers in. So they did introduce some economic packages and some voter right legislation and some legislation to close the gap on Medicare coverage. They also wanted to try and boost tourism to Georgia, which of course affects the economy. Reverend Warnock was instrumental in veterans' mental health, working with veterans and trying to improve the mental health of them. They also work to get some tax credits for working mothers, because again, 48% of the people in Georgia are poor. So any kind of tax credit they could get to help out would be really good. And also on that line, the historically Black colleges in Georgia, one of the promises was funding. And they definitely got the funding for the historically Black colleges. And as a matter of fact, I can't off the top of my head remember which college, but this college was disqualified from receiving funding. And ASIF was able to get that college to the funding, the accreditation to get the funding to help the college. So that was one of his campaign promises, and he did keep that. They also worked on relief for farmers, because I don't know how many people know, but farmers, especially small farmers, they suffer a lot, and it's really hard trying to keep their business afloat with the big corporations, the Monsanto, and these big farming organizations, because they're so restricted in what they can and can't farm as far as dairy, cows, corn, soy, those kind of things. So he worked to try and help the farmers. I'm really impressed that they seem to try and do something to improve the condition of all Georgians, not just the poor, but all Georgians. So I think it was a good thing that they were able to get in and affect some change. I'm just hoping Reverend Warnock will be able to stay as an elected official with this upcoming election. And one of the things that I didn't realize was senators, it's not they have a 2-year term, but it's not just all of a sudden all senators are running at the same time. So it's kind of a staggered thing, which may or may not be good. But the elections are coming up this year, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the lovely state of the Georgia Peach.